You know, we've all met someone who just seems to get people, right? They're charming, they're charismatic, they have this incredible emotional intelligence. But what if those exact same skills could be used for something a little darker? Today, we are diving into the fascinating and honestly pretty unsettling world of dark psychology.
It sounds like a crazy question, doesn't it? I mean, we think of empathy as this pure good thing, the ability to connect with people, to feel for them. But what if it could be turned into a tool, or even a weapon? Just stick with me here, because the answer is way more complicated than you'd ever think. So yeah, let's talk about charisma. We're about to see what happens when those very skills that make someone so magnetic get flipped on their head and used for something else entirely.
Okay, so let's get a really clear definition on the table. When we say dark psychology, we're not talking about some formal scientific field you'd major in at university. It's really more of a popular term for this whole set of unethical, manipulative tactics that people use to get exactly what they want, usually at someone else's expense.
A good way to think about it is like this. Emotional intelligence is all about understanding and managing emotions, right? Both your own and other people's. Well, dark psychology is kind of its shadow self. It's taking that same understanding of human emotion and social cues and using it not to connect, but to control.
So how do psychologists even begin to categorize these kinds of behaviors? Well, back in 2002, a couple of researchers pinpointed this core group of 3 personality traits that are really central to the whole idea. And together, they're famously known as the Dark Triad.
First up, we've got a word we all hear a lot: narcissism. And this goes way beyond just having high self-esteem. We're talking about a really deep-seated belief in your own superiority, a kind of grandiosity and ego that often makes it impossible to actually empathize with what other people are feeling.
Next in the trio is Machiavellianism. This one is all about strategy. It's named after, you guessed it, Niccolo Machiavelli, and it basically describes a personality that is super manipulative, cynical, and pretty indifferent to morality. For them, the ends always justify the means, and the focus is always on a cold, calculated pursuit of what's best for them.
And the third member of the triad is psychopathy. This one is often seen as the most, malevolent of the 3. It's defined by things like persistent antisocial behavior, a real lack of guilt or remorse for their actions, being highly impulsive, and having this sort of callous, unemotional nature. Now, for a good while, researchers worked with this 3-part model. But, over time, a lot of them started to feel like something was missing. There was this other trait that was definitely distinct from the others, but it clearly belonged in this family of dark personalities.
And that missing piece, it was sadism. What makes sadism so unique isn't just the act of being cruel, it's the enjoyment they get from it. Research has shown that while any of these traits can lead to hurtful behavior, it's the sadistic personality that genuinely gets a kick out of seeing other people suffer.
So with the addition of sadism, the whole model had to evolve. The Dark Triad became the Dark Tetrad. And this wasn't just, adding another word to the list. It created a much more complete and, frankly, more accurate way to understand these kinds of malicious personalities.
Okay, so this brings us right back to our opening question about empathy. Because the way these dark traits relate to feeling for other people is a total paradox. It is absolutely not what you would expect. It's what you'd think, right? That to be manipulative or cruel, you must just be completely empty inside, totally unable to understand emotions. But the science points to something way more complex, and honestly, a lot more chilling than that.
And this is where the crucial difference lies. See, we have to split the idea of empathy into 2 different types. First, you have affective empathy. That's what we normally think of, actually feeling someone else's sadness or their joy. But then there's cognitive empathy, which is the ability to intellectually understand what someone is feeling without necessarily feeling it yourself.
There was a 2015 study that just put it perfectly. It said that for these individuals, the empathic faculty is used for deceptive and ultimately violent purposes. Their ability to understand isn't for connection, it's a tool they use to get what they want. So here it is. This is the key. Study after study finds that people high in these dark tetrad traits have a huge deficit in affective empathy. They don't feel your pain, but their cognitive empathy, their ability to understand it, can be perfectly fine, or in some cases, even exceptionally high. And that's a dangerous combination. So let's take this out of the realm of theory and into a real-world example, one that I'm sure many of us have unfortunately run into.
Let's dissect the mind of an internet troll. I mean, these traits aren't just abstract ideas, they show up all the time. And the anonymity of the internet has basically created the perfect playground for people high in these traits to act out without any real, immediate consequences.
Just take a look at this data. It's plotting personality scores against what people said their favorite online activities are. See that absolutely massive spike for trolling? People who love to troll score off the charts for psychopathy and sadism. And not just direct sadism, which is enjoying hurting people themselves, but also vicarious sadism, enjoying watching others do it. It's like a perfect, real-world confirmation of the theory.
Okay, so we've defined the traits, we've seen them in action online. How do we put all of this together? What are the key patterns we should be recognizing from all of this?
All right, let's just do a quick recap. First, dark psychology isn't a lack of emotional skill. It's emotional intelligence that's been weaponized. Second, the framework to understand it is the Dark Tetrad: narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy, and sadism. Third, and this is so important, the empathy paradox is central. The danger is that combination of low affective empathy but high cognitive empathy. And finally, these are not just abstract ideas. They actually predict real malicious behaviors, like internet trolling.
Look, understanding this framework gives you a whole new lens to see human interaction through. It's not about becoming paranoid or cynical. It's just about being aware that the same skills that can build incredible connections can also be used to break them. So I'll leave you with this. Now that you know the patterns, where are you going to start seeing them?